2, the side of the hall. We will be doing an afternoon relaxed chat. So if you have questions on it, if you have ideas, you are welcome. I will like to just say that with AODC 17 and ADRR, and I will give my 30 remaining seconds to Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Our session is on public forum. Public forum basically looks at engaging the participants who are having burning issues, questions, comments, contribution, to ask for the framework that supports open data in Africa and the enabling environment, the way forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not Hope, I'm representing Hope. My name is Stephanie Mushai from HIVOS in Kenya. So greetings from Kenya. We're running a session that's looking at generally around public contracting and the transparency and accountability element of it. The session will discuss using the regional mechanisms that we have, the African Commission, the African Union. For any of you that are doing any regional work or would like to do regional work in the African Commission or AU, I believe even if it's not in public contracting, the discussions will be helpful to you to learn the mechanisms and how you can use them and some of the pitfalls as well. We'll also be looking at the Cameroonian experience. We will have a research component from Nigeria as well, and then we will be speaking about the Malawi experience. So anything around public contracting, illicit financial flows, access to information, please do join us in meeting room 3, and I believe the session has just kicked off, so I would ask you to hurry there. Thank you.
So, thank you for that. You want to add something?
Yes, the public forum happens to be in the main hall, so it will be very interesting. We have powerful panelists. Thank you.
Wonderful. So the public forum is happening right here in the main hall. Africa Data Revolution Report will be happening in committee room 2, that way. And then we have the Advancing Africa's Commitment to Open Contracting in meeting room 3. Oh, okay. Nice. Now, those who are remaining in this room for the public forum, please come forward. Oh, meeting room 3 is upstairs, by the way. Those going to meeting room 3, it's upstairs. If you're here for the public forum, please come forward. So, Monsieur Moderator, let me call your panelists for you. We have Kweku Oforiche joining the panelists, the Deputy Director for General NITA. The Deputy Director General, yes, NITA. Kweku. We have Jean Ho, who is the President of the Africa Open Data Collaborative. We have Alka Misra, who is the Senior Technical Director, Government of India. We have Michael Kisibwating, Policy Analyst, National Development Planning Commission, NDPC. And we have Kerengai Kamal, Executive Director, Canis UON. Is Kerengai here? Kamal? Yes, awesome. All right, Mr. Moderator, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Papa. Good afternoon, all, and welcome to our session. I'll give you a brief about the public forum. The public forum is an avenue that is created to create an enabling environment to allow participants to engage in comments, questions, and contribution on how to drive open data in Africa, and also creating an enabling environment for that. We'll have two mics, one this way, which is another mic, but maybe okay, it's good to use two mics. So we have two mics. Whoever has a comment, issue, question will queue behind the mic, and then when the floor is open, you ask your question or you make your contribution. The session is on open data and enabling environment. I will allow my panelists to introduce themselves, what they do, and how they contribute to the team. Thereafter, we'll have a presentation by our Senior Technical Director from the Government of India, and we'll open the floor for contributions, questions, and comments. So I will start from my left to request the panelists to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Kiringai Kamau. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Agricultural Networking and Information Sharing at the University of Nairobi. I also advise the government of Kenya on issues to do with capacity development in the open data for agriculture and nutrition. I'm currently involved in developing an initiative jointly with some other partners like Gordon in Africa Agriculture Capacity Development Initiative, which is going to be involved in revolutionizing the agricultural practice, particularly in terms of knowledge and how knowledge is shared by research institutions to infuse farming initiatives through farmer organizations. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. I am Michael Kisibuatin, a policy analyst from the National Development Planning Commission. My bias the bias of my work at the Planning Commission is in the information communication technology for development. So open data happens to be one of the subject areas that I deal with at the Commission. Basically, the work of the Commission, what we do is to advise the President of the Republic of Ghana on policy issues in terms of governance, economic issues, environment, and also social issues. So basically, if there are some policy challenges as far as open data is concerned that need to catch the attention of the government, the National Development Planning Commission is one of the avenues that you can use to get it to the presidency. We also give Parliament, upon request, advice as to policy work and development work generally in the country. Beyond that, normally we come out with the National Development Planning Framework for the country. So currently we are working on one that we will implement from 2018 to 2021. That's 4 years. And so if there are some issues here, as far as open data is concerned, they can easily be carried into the framework, so that in the next 4 years, or even in the long term, we will implement and also do monitoring and evaluation for them, which will also culminate into policy recommendations and improving the system till we find a somewhat perfect situation for open data and any other subjects that we may be concerned with. So basically, that's what we do at the Commission, and these are the works I am involved in. There are others, but these are the ones I want to talk about for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Jean Holm, and I'm the president of Open Data Collaboratives, which has been the organizing committee working with 6 different groups for 6 different Africa Open Data conferences over the last 2 years. This year, very pleased to be working with the government of Ghana and had an awesome experience in putting this conference together, so I hope you're enjoying it. The reason that I have a particular fondness and love for Ghana is because with Alka and the team from India, the three teams together created open source content that was the driver for data.gov, which was my project at the time in the US, and the data.gov.in, and the original Ghana Open Data platform. And so it was an amazing experience and really very joyful in working internationally and collaboratively and virtually together. So I just have the most respect for the Ghana Open Data team here and really the work that's going on. And as part of Open Data Collaboratives, I'm happy to support in any way. I have a second job as the Deputy CIO for the City of Los Angeles, and I'm happy to also think about collaborations between Ghana and other African nations and the great city of Los Angeles.
Thank you. My name is Kweku Cheofori. I'm the Deputy Director General for the National Information Technology Agency under the Ministry of Communications here in Ghana. We are the regulatory body that facilitates everything ICT here in Ghana. And one of the main agendas of the Minister and the President is to make sure that by the end of our term, technology enablement across the country is enhanced and everybody has accessibility to the internet, has accessibility to data, which we'll be able to use make smart decisions now and in the future. So we are championing the ideas of the President, the Minister. Like the President has said, we're in a hurry to make change in this country. So henceforth, we are working aggressively towards that to implement that. That's why we are seeing these conferences and other things that would be panning out very soon in the near future.
Good afternoon. I'm Alka Mishra, Senior Technical Director from National Informatics Center under Ministry of Electronics and IT. I would first of all like to thank Neeta and Godan for giving us the privilege to participate in the Africa Open Data Conference. It has been a wonderful experience here ever since we were here from Monday. It has been a very rich learning experience which we have shared with all of you, and it was a collaboration. And as Jean said, this is something that we look forward to, and I am sure with the President's commitment and the Minister's commitment, open data has a lot to do in Ghana, and I look forward to be a part of it. I have with me here my colleague from India, DP Mishra, who would be facilitating me with my presentation, and I head Open Data Initiative of Government of India, and the other hat that I wear is the citizen engagement platform, mygov.in, which is also taken care by me. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, a hand of applause for the great panelists on beautiful people. Now, we'll call on the Senior Technical Director to do her presentation. Thereafter, we'll now have the floor open with set rules, which I will pronounce shortly.
Good afternoon once again. And I would just take not more than 15-20 minutes of your time to just tell each one of you what has been our journey in the Open Data Government Initiative for Government of India. This traces back way back in 2011 when we had the first open source code, which was OGPL, by making an open government platform available. Both India and US worked together, and it was a unique experience. Not only because India and US worked together, it was one of its kind where the largest democratic country, India, and the most advanced country, US, sat together for 5 days in Washington, had a brainstorming session, and thereafter we decided what needs to be done for data.gov. And we did all the development across globe with different time zones with just one meeting. That was a true collaboration in the truest sense. Meeting once, and then the complete development was taken place between the two countries across the globe, and the product was up and running in 5 months. It was a unique experience for us also. And thereafter, we decided that this product should be given back to the community, and the source code is available at GitHub. You could go to GitHub and see Data Portal India. The source code is available for any one of you to take it up and have your open data instance. We decided to implement it in Rwanda and Ghana. And hats off to both the countries. They really worked hard, and we had data.gov GW and GH and data.gov RW up on this open source code, which was shared with the community. Thereafter, after 2011, once we had this experience between US and India and implemented it in Ghana and Rwanda, India had its own policy, which was called National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy, which was announced way back in March 2012. And then there was a need for India to use this policy and implement an open data platform for its own country. The experience that we had in implementing OGPL was very useful, and we customized this product to our requirement, and we had data.gov.in up running in October 2012. This is how it looks like if you go to data.gov.in, and you would see it is an open source platform for proactive release of data sets in an open format by each and every department of Government of India. It increases transparency, accountability, and finally, innovation around data for making applications, visualizations, and mashups. This is one of the pillars in the Digital India Initiative, Information for All, making it easily accessible to one and all. The main stakeholders was Department of Science and Technology. This was the department which realized that even amongst government departments, there is not enough sharing. One has to go, we heard it in the morning, the minister very rightly had addressed that when you need to give a data between departments, the minister tells the director tells his deputy, and then finally the deputy moves a note, it goes to the other department, it goes upwards from the deputy to the director to the minister, and then the information is exchanged. So it is better to have a central repository of all data so that it could be easily accessed not only by the citizen but also by the government. So DST was the Department of Science and Technology, which spearheaded this policy initiative, and we had the policy in place. In the policy itself, they identified that the technology partner would be National Informatics Center, which would have the platform up and ready for the ministries and departments to contribute data sets. And the biggest stakeholder, of course, of this was the departments itself, the ones which collect lots and lots and lots of data, which is actually kept in silos. I have seen in my 4 days visit here that the story remains the same, whether it is India or whether it is Africa, there are lots of data. There is no dearth of data at all. But the only thing is the data is in silos, in files, and not accessible, which needs to be opened up so that it could be tapped by anyone, whether it is the industry, whether it is the researcher, or whether it is a developer, or even a government department. So we came up with the concept diagram that eventually, which we felt was, there are two ecosystems of open government data, one being the government, the source of information, the source of data, and the other being the citizen who needs this information for any decision that they take. So the ecosystem, as you can see, is the government, which is pumping the data, which has the data, whether they put it through databases or whether they put it through tools or APIs. The technology is not the barrier anymore. And then the citizens who could download this data, slice and dice and make visualizations, mash up stories, or come up with some analysis, researchers could use it. And over the time, we realized that these are not the only two ecosystems. The ecosystem of community emerges gradually but steadily. It is the community, the energy sector community, or the educationalist, or even the researcher community, which drives the demand for data, which the government then finally puts it on the portal. This is just a statistics. As on date, we have around 110 chief data officers, and we have got over 1 lakh data sets contributed in an open format. And we realized with time that data in rows and columns are no longer interesting. To get a better perspective, there is a need to have a pictorial representation of the data as charts, as bar graphs, as pie charts, and then we had visualizations coming up. You would be wondering, why did we have to have chief data officers? Just having the platform, just having the technology in place and a policy in place did not really facilitate. So it was realized with time that we need to tap each department. We need to make a hero in each department who would spearhead the initiative of releasing the data in an open forum. So we started calling him a chief data officer, the second or the third person in hierarchy from top in the department who would be accountable for releasing the data of his department. The platform has got some unique features. It has got widgets which could be used. You see, none of the departments really can appreciate why should they release data. They feel they have a very good website. They feel their annual reports are put on the website. They feel they are doing a great job. So they felt that it was a burden releasing this data on a central portal, and it was duplicating their effort, whereas it was not. So we had to give it back to them. We said, look, if you need health sector data, you are in education and you need health sector data, we give it back to you as an API, which you could put it, embed it in your own website. So you would be rich with information which is required between departments. So these features were made available on the platform. We had a workflow in place. We enabled contribution right from the offices of the departments with their own government login ID and password, enabling them to contribute data without a hitch. And then we realized that if they just release data, they would do so whatever was readily available with them, not keeping in mind what was needed by the citizens. So we had means of citizen engagement. Rate the data, ask for a data, and contact the chief data officers directly. There was a communication, there was an interaction which facilitated proactive release of the data which was demanded by the citizens, and we could work it through technology. We realized with years, in the last 5 years, that community, developers, startups, industry, which is willing to work and engage with the government data, were having a hitch. They did not know what was the license under which they could use, reuse, and redistribute this data, which is available in an open format. So India came up with a Government of India license, data license, under a committee headed by Secretary Law. He took the lead. Under his guidance, with community, academia, researchers, a law was drafted. What did that law do? That law just facilitated people to use the data, reuse the data, and contribute it back to the community by value add. They got a license to make even commercial business out of the data which was available. This is just an architecture of what the data.gov.in looks like. I don't think I'll get into this. Yeah, the next slide, please. Yeah, we have a visualization engine, and I'm telling all this so that any of it could be picked up by Ghana, Tanzania, or any other country. It is available as a software, as a service. Any module, any component could be taken up and customized. So we have a visualization engine which is available for you to visualize the data in charts, graphs, maps, and data becomes much more meaningful apart from the rows and columns which it was available. And then we have a very strong community section on data.gov.in known as community.data.gov.in. My only suggestion to Ghana would be, now when you come up with your data.gov initiative, have this community section so that you will be able to get positive feedback from the community. You would be able to get an engagement from the community. They will engage with you, and the trust factor would definitely go up. And in order to hold them accountable and feel a part of your initiative, conduct hackathons and conduct devathons so that the developer community, the visualizing community, and even the startups could feel a part, engage with the data, the government data, and come up with much more innovation and much more useful ideas, which you and me being in the government would not think of. Could you just go back 2 slides? Yeah, this, not really this, one more. Yeah, these are the just top 10 sectoral data sets that we have in India. Just to give an idea, health and family welfare, the maximum number of data sets are released in an open format, followed by, what's that, census. That is the census which we do once in 10 years, household level census, and then agriculture, parliament. Our parliament data is all available online and in an open format. Crime. Crime has been very forthcoming, the Department of Crime and Homeland Security, in releasing all the data. It gives you, you can understand which state is better, which area is safer to live in, and what types of crime is actually going on. It gives you a very good perspective. Then we have water and sanitation, transport. Economy is somehow lagging behind, and in this conference we heard about open economy, and we would try to see what we can do in India about it. This has just been a journey so far. I will not get into it. Jean has already told we began way back in 2011, and in 2017 we now have a license, we now have a platform, we have a software as an instance, and many of the states in our own country, that is the provinces, have taken up this platform, and they've come up with their own data.gov initiative, whether it is Tamil Nadu or whether it is Sikkim or Surat. Even the municipal committee has taken it up. And we are now planning to have our 4th hackathon in the next month, sometime end of month, where we would be having the hackathon in 7 cities, a 1-day program, opening up basically 6 sector data. Though we have over 54 sectoral data, but we are concentrating on the 6 sectors, that is transport, agriculture, crime, education, and health. These sectoral data we would be opening up for any developer, any industry, any person who can code or who can come up with visualizations or mashups or graphical interpretation or analysis. This would be run, and after that, a prototyping would be done, and the best 3 in each of the sector would be selected, incubated, and finally adopted by that particular department. This is just a take from India, and in any way that we can help in drafting the policy or having the framework, we would be more than happy to do it for any of the countries in Africa. Thank you.
Great presentation. Yeah. Before I open the floor, I will go across to the Deputy Director General. Indian has given us a holistic approach to open data, and this platform was best practice on open source. Now, you may give us a guide what Ghana intends to do to guide the participant to know what kind of comment, question, or recommendation, or even suggestion. Thank you, DG.
Deputy DG. I believe we are on the right path in regards to open data. If you realize in our last election, what drove or what made some decisions as to how things were done was the data which was available in real time, where you could tell by the decisions that some constituencies had X amount of numbers, and henceforth things could not changed as we expected last time. So if you say data prior, you would have said people have voted this amount, and henceforth they are going to go count them, and they will tell you what happens. But now data is real, it's live, it's here, it's available. So the minutes is counted. It's 20. It's 20. By the time we move it from the voting area to the EC, the numbers don't change. It's 20, it's 20. So you can't make those changes. And I think as part of our census that we are undertaken, the data what is going to be put out through our national ID, our digital addressing system, now collaborates what we are doing as a nation. This data, it's available to everybody. We know who's coming in, we know who's going out, we know how many people are in the country, we know who is eligible to vote and cannot vote, we know who are the foreigners. Henceforth, we can make decisions based on that. We are equipping most of our environments, the airports and stuff like that, to also have some real-time data so that we can tell by the minute who's landing from where and what we can pitch to them, right? Let's say if you're coming from Kenya, and we know Kenyans like, let's say, white T-shirts from Ghana. Now, when the flight is about to land, we can just make it ready for them at the airport before they buy and exit. So these are some of the real-time things that we're going to be using data for. And I think I also know that we are putting much more effort in open data to reduce corruption. The PPA, which is putting together a platform where bidding or competitive bidding is done openly, where everybody knows what the bid is about, so that it's not like one person goes somewhere and makes something and make it happen. Now the data is available. Everybody can fairly bid for it. Everybody can tell why they lost or why they won, and everybody knows what is happening. So Ghana is in the right place. Where we are looking to do is to add data and also some IoT to make real-time decisions. I would love to see an environment where we can make decisions per our traffic so that you know where to go and where not to go. This data should be available by mobile. You can make a decision by health. I know we are making some decisions in regards to agriculture using simple mobile devices and technologies that are available to us. So we do have a clear path as to where we want to go. We do have a clear path of where we are now, and we continuously improve on what we intend to do.
Great. A hand of applause for the Deputy Director General. Jen Hom, President, African Open Data Collaborative. Please, can you throw an insight to what Ghana is doing and marry it with the enabling environment that India has created for open data before we open the floor? Thank you.
So I just think we've all been talking this week about the kinds of things that are necessary to have a vibrant open data ecosystem. Certainly starting with policy, although sometimes that doesn't always happen first. Sometimes you have a technology platform. And then really being able to connect people in the community. And that's why I think it's been so great that the groups have gotten together here at this conference and in other places all over the city, and why the first day of the conference was actually in many of those places where the open data ecosystem is happening here in Accra. And I think that when we think about being able to really show leadership and to be able to use that open data to build economic development and growth, that if you have the policy which prompts the city, the regulatory agencies to open their data, and certainly in the US, when I had to do this for the Obama administration, there was a lot of fear from civil servants in opening up data. Not necessarily fear because the data was going to show something negative. I mean, it may or may not, but fear because maybe some of the data wasn't complete, right? Maybe they'd missed some collections. And having that policy from the presidential level and having the kind of support that we saw this morning, which is very exciting, means that the civil servants feel more comfortable opening up data and noting if there's an irregularity in it, and then being able to be transparent about that with the community so that we can have a conversation about it, as opposed to just kind of negative criticism. So opening up the data is the first step, and having that policy gives civil servants the comfort level, knowing that they're trying to do the right thing. And then the other part is really engaging the entire community, because it's all of you who are going to be using that data. Whether you are actually in the government of Ghana, you'll be using data from other ministries and departments, but also all of you who are advocates, people in other countries will be using Ghana data to be able to do comparisons and understanding when there are successes here, how to replicate those successes elsewhere. So I just think it's a really excellent opportunity, and the timing, even if it's taken a bit of time to sometimes get to a point, that it's always the right time to get started.
ED Canis, I would like you to look at the perspective of the challenges we are facing around the framework, comparing to what India has shown. They had a policy, and then follow up with what the President African Open Data Collaborative Network has just spoken. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When you deal with the looking at data in a sector that has very little data, then your biggest challenge is not so much dealing with the data, but developing the frameworks for addressing issues to do with open data. Africa is mainly challenged because the frameworks for data capture, whether you are talking satellite data, whether you are talking geospatial data, or whether you are talking about data that advises agriculture itself, is not quite well organized. So what is it that we are doing at the Center for Agricultural Networking and Information Sharing? We discovered that the biggest challenge that we have is, without linking agricultural research with agricultural extension and having the farmers themselves being in a position to address the issue of releasing data, not so much for the purpose of making it open, but for making it possible for them to trade on what they produce, or having what they have produced to be released for storage. And you have heard so much said about the warehousing of foods that is released by farmers. Now, the receipting warehousing systems that are coming as vehicles of ensuring that the farmers have their foods stored and it's available anytime they want it. For the purpose of acceptability of their own storage, they have to provide details about themselves, and then you can actually now either store the food or release it for trading, and so long as you have an agreement with the farmers with that. Now, what we are therefore trying to do is we are creating the frameworks now. there doesn't exist, like is the case with India, where they already have, they sat down and said, we want to start with a system. What we are saying in our case, we want to start with the initiatives or institutions that will be responsible for driving the putting in of the systems, so that the systems can then come in to help drive the other dimensions that can come with innovation of data that is stored. At the moment, if I asked the Ghanaian people, how many farmers do you have that are producing cashew nuts? And they will most likely tell you, oh, we will go to the aggregator of cashew nuts, who will tell us how many farmers they deal with. And then the farmers that he gives you will not be accurate because he wants to hide the information. So in a sense, we can say our agricultural data can't even be talked about being opened. Doesn't exist. So from our perspective, we are now starting, and this forum is actually up to the right time, because with partnership with Gordon, we are trying to create the Africa Agriculture Capacity Development Initiative, and the capacity doesn't mean training. It means looking at the entire value chain, institutional that is, that will actually look at what the farmers have as an organization that requires now the support of the extension mechanism, and then the extension mechanism can now be the ones that will be used for harvesting or harnessing the data that is happening at the farm level. We want to do this simultaneously across all the African states, and we hope that we can actually now, at that point, we can now go for the systems that they have used in India, and we now customize that for the purpose of driving the open data dimension that we want to do for Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edie. Mike, I would like you as a policy analyst to look at the few challenges Dr. Kamo has just elaborated, and how you think we can maneuver it so that our participants will have a good idea of how to contribute, bring in suggestions, ask questions, and make the right comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. One of the things I know that currently is being done in Ghana is a collaboration between the Kofi Annan Advanced Institute for Technology and some other, and I think NITA is also part of them. They are trying to set the standards for the data that we generate, so that, for data to be open, it has to be machine readable, it has to be reusable and all that. So I know they are setting some standards so that it will help even the Ghana Statistical Service in their way they take data, and also the other government institutions for what the kind of data they channel. So collaboration, key, very key in all of these, and then partnerships. And in partnerships, I'm not just looking at government institutions alone. We're looking at private sector and even civil society. These kinds of collaborations and partnerships will help us move forward. Again, the data that we going to churn out eventually will be used by citizens. So we have to create room for stakeholder engagement. Very, very important. Currently at the Planning Commission, when we ask the districts or the metropolitan and municipal assemblies to bring their development plans for us to assess, to see whether they are in line with the framework or the strategic vision of the country, we ask them to give a spatial representation of what they want to do. So if you want what you already have, schools, hospitals, whatever, represent them on maps. And what you are yet to do to represent them on maps. But when this kind of data comes to, is it machine readable? Is it the type that people can easily come up with applications, and then you can easily know, you get to a community, you can easily with your phone know where a hospital is, blah, 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 you know your way around it. So because we find some of these challenges, we then go to the other stakeholders and talk with them. So collaboration, partnership, stakeholder engagement is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Our great participants, you've heard it from the panelists. It's now the floor that will contribute through their engagement via questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations. Now, this is the PP approach we are providing. So the rule for the game shall be, we have 2 mics, one to the far right and one immediately before me. So the one before me is mic A. The one to my right is mic B. So if you have any concern, you queue behind the mic, and then you ask your question. You can address it to a specific panelist or a general question, and someone will respond. In case you don't have a satisfaction, you can give a little leadway, but this will happen within 2 minutes. Thank you. The floor is open for our participants. Technical team, please, feel free. It's time to contribute. Citizen engagement. If you are not engaged and the policy falls out there, you start complaining. Time to put your input. I expect so many female to fall out because gender issue has been on the table for a very long time.
Thank you. My question goes to you. You've talked of data, making it open. Government data can be made open. The private one you're talking of, negotiating with them. In terms of the private, who pays for that? And if it's out of the government, when is it going to take for that data to be published? Because if the data has been collected, for example, last population census, over 2 years, the data are not online. And, so if it takes a long time, so you talk of making it, the data open. What is the time frame of that? Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, please, sorry, maybe I didn't get you properly. I made a mistake. You needed to tell us your name, where you're coming from, and possibly the country. It's my fault. I take the blame. Please, come back to the mic, introduce yourself, your organization, and the country. Thank you.
James Shen, UCC, Ghana.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, great question came up. If the data is being generated, who pays for it? Now, first, before the panelists will answer that question, will be, we have certain types of data. So you have data that you can release freely because it costs you nothing to derive. And those kind of data relates like public data. Now, the panelists, who goes first? Okay, Mike wants to.
Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you very much. Like Mr. Moderator, our moderator started by saying, there are some data that we take that do not cost us. Normally, what we call administrative data. So now, let's say hospital attendance. People attend hospital anyway, and you take some sort of data on them anyway. It's part of your normal work. That kind of administrative data is part of your routine work, so it may not cost the country that much to take them. So already there are systems in place that can help us take a lot of data that will not cost us anything extra. What may cost us extra is when we come in with what we have to do, like a survey and evaluation, and then we have to go out there, go for data, that sort of thing. And that one too, again, comes back to what I was saying, collaboration and partnerships. So funds can come from governments, can come from the private sector, or can even come from individual citizens who are in some sort of group. They say this is a self-help activity. So we are in this community, we take this kind of data to help our health system or our agricultural system to help us, we ourselves. It can also be a cooperative corporation, agricultural cooperative corporation somewhere, and voluntarily give out data. So some may not cost us much, but there are others like going out there for a survey, and that one I would say partnerships will help in funding them. Thank you.
So when you think about data, I can tell you that you're given a lot of data every day out there freely that you don't even know about. With your mobile device, you turn on your GPS, you move around. Google can tell where you go every day and where you spend most of your time. So that data, it's already there. He did mention data that we can collect for little to no money. Let's say if you're in the bank and people are constantly coming in for a specific type of loan, you can use that data to make decisions as to maybe the trend is now going towards loan towards farming, or the trend is now going towards loans making shoes. So where should I tailor my products to and be able to make these decisions? If you are in a university or any other institution where you can tell by grades as to how the grades are faring on people who are coming in, these are data that are already available. There's no need for you to spend extra amount of money to collect them. A typical example is, like you did mention, our census. These are data that's already been paid for, that is supposed to be given to the public. And these are some of the things that should be out there to make decisions. Like I did mention for our digital addressing system. Now, when that materializes, what we can do is now we can tell every property in the country who it belongs to or how much it's worth. These are things that help us make decisions as to who owns what and what is available to be owned, or where you can buy some of these things if you want to buy the property. That also help us solve crime, because now we can tell which property is in which corner. The police can address it quickly and can make real-time decisions on that. So some of the data that is available or would be available is pretty much affordable to get. There are data that you really have to pay for, but in your city of Los Angeles, the city has put out a platform where they are telling everybody how much they are spending and what they are using their money for. Accountability. The government of Ghana, I believe, should or could be able to do that. So every loan that we get, we can put it out there that we took a loan for $1 or $100. One city has gone to this, 2 cities has gone to this. Accountability to the public. And this is the open data that everybody or should be able out there for us to use to make the decision, so that we can tell the government is using our money well or is not using our money well. So some of this data is quite available already. You are also giving out a lot of free data. The pictures you're posting everywhere is data as well. Decisions can be made off all of these things that you put online or you share with other people as well. So, yeah.
So I was just going to add that in most cases, the government does try to provide that data free of charge. There are some small number of instances where governments end up charging for a specific, very expensive kind of data collection that might be unique. But I think it's important to understand that governments have a kind of long budget process. So say you wanted to go out and do a survey of, say, all the health clinics, and that data hadn't been collected in any way, then the government might think that's a good idea. So somebody's requesting data that they just simply don't have, or data that's not accurate and they need to go out and reassess. That it may be that the government has to put in a budget request for 1 year to get some money to do that survey data to conduct the next year. So sometimes there's a delay in gathering the data, but it's only because if the government's not going to charge any individual, it's because they have to get their own process in place. And that's, I think, typical in 99% of governments. So just to kind of set expectations that sometimes there's a time to do that. And the other thing, too, is for every government, including for governments in the U.S., and cities and things, that our workforce isn't always data savvy. And so for our own people, we have to train them on things like privacy and anonymity of data. So we don't want our folks to be able to start releasing data unless we've also trained them on how to make sure that they're protecting your privacy if there's some information in that data that should be protected. So while some data can be released really quickly, there's some other data that either needs to get sort of managed and secured, or data that just is going to take a budgetary process to be able to get to it.
Thank you. I think the issue of data collection and the cost that goes with it, that is people ascribe with the cost of collecting data, comes from the fact that we do not have any frameworks of harnessing data at the point where it is done provided voluntarily. And that is why I gave the example of agriculture. Right now, we do not document agricultural production at the point where activities are taking place. So if we had that infrastructure to collect the data at household level, because a farmer has produced milk, that milk will add in the market. Or a farmer has procured input X to put into their soil, which they employed so many people that they paid. And that data at that activity level is collected. Then that data is done by them voluntarily because they had that requirement to do that. If that data was now aggregated for so many households, because the systems and processes for achieving that has been done, then it becomes irrelevant for you to say later in time that you are going to be collecting that data and therefore paying any money. So the household data and who or how many people are existing will most likely be collected on the basis of what activities take place. So in my view, the issue of data, once you have the right frameworks and systems in place, the collection doesn't come in. And that is why those who have done it over the years, their concern is not collecting and opening the data. It is what security do you give to that person because you are already holding their data. Give them assurances so that they actually don't say that we have issues with our data getting out there. So the challenge that we have in our case in African governments is we actually have to invest in the systems and frameworks for collecting and aggregating and using data. And opening data now becomes an issue that you actually have to do at the time when you are designing those systems and processes. So I would say that we haven't really gotten to the issue of discussing costs. Our cost comes because it is normally the people who want the data that pay for it. If I want an opinion from you, I will pay because it's me who is interested in the opinion. If I want to collect the census as a government of my country, then I have to spend money because it is me who is interested in the planning. So the person who actually has the interest in the data that is not held collectively and available across the board, then must pay and must be prepared for it, and that is where the issue of the budgeting comes in. Thank you.
I would just like to add, basically, in each of the country, data is actually collected in some way or the other. It is collected by many of the departments, and it is already the taxpayers' money is being used in collecting this data. So it becomes the responsibility, I would rather say, a change in the mindset in releasing the data. Coming to your question as the delay, initially there would be a delay if they are not having the platform or if they are not opening it up. But then once all these things are in place, there is a change in the mindset and the need is felt that the data which is already lying, maybe in reports, in their websites or in their files, it would get into a process and then the delay would not be there. So I feel that it is the taxpayers' money with awareness, advocacy, and a little bit of change in the mindset. it would not be a tough job to have the data up and running. And now if you see, once you have this, then you would start working towards data by default. If you already have applications in place, then you do not have to reinvent the wheel. From the application itself, the data could be pushed to the central repository, and it would be an auto-sourced way of having data always current to any of the user.
Thank you. Mike B.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Shaib Uzikiru from the University of Cape Coast, Ghana. I have a question and then a scenario. My first question goes to the Indian policy of data accessibility. I want to find out with the impact, as in what has been or what has come out from it after they initiated such policy. Because I noticed the policy is more or less of supplying the data to the users. I don't know how it has maybe aided in development or taking certain decisions to improve the country sector. And then again, I realized the initiative by the capacity building. That one is more or less letting the open data closer to the people on the ground. If you look at more of the panelists, what they are saying is covering those at the higher level, either technology, either policymakers. It's actually those at that kind of level, like with policymakers and stuff. My consideration is the community, the Indian policymaking community. How really is it getting to the citizens, to the farmers, to the traders, to those who are really doing the activity, as in their information is going out and this and that. Because if they are not being aware of this and their staff are going out, I think it will be of a concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As you have said that what did this opening data really do? Yes, the policy was there and the policy just helped in making departments realize that they need to release the data. But the data alone did not come so easily. So you're very, very correct that till you do not have the use of this data, people are reluctant to give the data because they feel, not because they feel that it is not useful, it is an additional work for them. So we had to have many workshops, we had to have engage with the community. Now when we talk of community, you asked me how was it really useful to the people at the ground level. We have an application, if you go to data.gov.in and if you go to agriculture sector, you have an application called Mandi Prices. And this is really very innovative. What happened was our Department of Agriculture was anyway releasing the Mandi prices of all the commodities. But that was not good enough because one would need to know that which is the website which is releasing the commodity prices and then go drill down and look into the prices. No farmer can do this who is very illiterate and is in a remote village. So what entrepreneur did, a single human being himself, he took this open data of Mandi prices which was available on data.gov.in, he developed an application, a mobile application, whereas he worked out the Mandi prices within a kilometer of 5 kilometers of his location. So he started reaching out to the farmers that here, if you are in Accra, these are the 5 mandis or 10 mandis within a radius of 5 kilometers and the commodity price of tomato, chili, potato today is so and so. So the farmer was able to make use of this open data through the application and get the best price. Now coming to one would ask, do you mean to say a farmer has a smartphone, a farmer in a remote village to make use of this data? He started working on even text-based SMSs. So it is how an individual can actually get passionated. There are many, many like that. If you start opening the data, some passionate individual or an NGO will come up with applications which would help the end user. This is how many of them are benefited, whether it is the Mandi. Now he's doing it in the local languages, and he's become an entrepreneur. From a startup, from an individual to a startup to an entrepreneur. The community, and he has started selling this application to even community centers where they are reaching out to the farmers and giving forecasting of how the weather is going to be, how the crop is being infested, and things like that. So if you open the data, believe me, it might take some time, 6 months or 7 months, but it would pay dividend to all. Have I answered your question?
Thank you. I hear satisfied. Please, before you ask your question, I could just, not to stress you, just sit a little. He wants to contribute to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This, an example in the UK, some maps of councils were released as open data, and a citizen came up with an app, a TomTom, and this app helps them to be able to find buses, so they know where they can locate bus stops. They know when the buses will be available. Now, this happened because the data, the maps were released and citizens used them. When I was talking earlier, I talked about districts maps being available at the National Joint Planning Commission. Now, in a similar vein, it can be for a specific district or for a whole region. I mean, citizens can come up with apps that probably you want to know where there are standpipes in particular areas. You can easily tell by your phone. So wherever you find yourself in the country, you can even be in Accra and tell somebody where he or she can get access to potable water in a particular region or village. So it depends. When we release the data, it drives innovation, and there's no telling how far citizens will go. Thank you very much.
Great. Young lady.
My name is Marian Clara, and I'm a social entrepreneur and a volunteer. So my question is, there are students groups and NGOs that go around collecting data. I want to find out how government is working with such NGOs to improve data collection. I know of Open Foundation, West Africa, they go around collecting data on historic sites, problems around, and how is government working with such people to improve data collection? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Currently, the Ghana Statistical Service is working together with the civil society organizations in Ghana to, in terms of standards for data, so that we can also use the kind of data they collect in our national documents and decision making. So in Ghana, that's what I can say. There's a collaboration between the Ghana Statistical Service and the civil society organizations that take data in the field for their data to be of the high quality that can be used to make evidence-based decisions in Ghana. Yeah, that's what I can tell.
Please, any panelists to contribute?
So I'll just give 2 examples of things that I think are really useful and free. So in Los Angeles, I started the Data Science Federation, which is a federation of 12 local universities, and that works with the city departments. So our city departments aren't always data savvy themselves, but they have real data problems, and there's a lot of data being collected. And so what we did is we partnered them with these groups of students and professors at the universities. And each semester, we pair a department up with the university and students. And so the students get to work on real data that's actually going to make a difference. We commit as a city to saying we're going to do something significant with that, maybe change a policy or start a new project or make a better decision. And the teachers like it because they want to publish papers and, have some difference that they're making. And so the city benefits because it's teaching our employees new techniques that the students are bringing forward. So that's a free or a very inexpensive way of trying to make a better connection. You can do that with civil society. We do it with a group called Code for America as well. And then I think the other thing is to really think creatively, and you kind of referenced this, about what value are we going to give to data that's non-government data, and maybe how we're going to do that. On data.gov in the US, after a few years of having government-only data, we decided to work with some trusted civil society organizations and including presenting their data on data.gov. So it said this was from, for example, the Sierra Club, which is an environmental organization. And so it was clear it wasn't from the government, but we felt it was of a high enough quality that it augmented our data. So that would be something to think in the future as a possibility, in some way of federating data with those organizations. And then I also worked with a group of people to create a citizen science toolkit so that we could give guidelines from government employees to citizens and civil society to be able to say, if you want to gather data that we could sort of give a stamp of approval or that we would be able to more easily use, if you use these standards and guidelines in doing that are really simple to understand, like it was meant for kids to go out and collect information about animals, then we would, if you do it this way, then we'll be able to better accept that data.
Okay, thank you. Because of time, Mike B, will come to you.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Ebenezer Ajimai Chief from Big Data Ghana Limited. We know this question goes to AD of NITA. We know in Ghana, most projects come to a halt when there is a change in government. So all these platforms he was talking about, what things are they putting in place that will help the continuity of those platforms, even if there is change in government? And the second question goes to all of you. Please, have you considered the security issues that might arise by opening up every data to everyone to have access to it? Have you considered the security issues in that sense? Thank you.
Thank you, Director, Deputy Director General.
So if I understand your question right, you did mention about continuation of government in projects. Is that right? Is that right? Okay. So the Kufuor government believes in continuation of projects. There are a lot of projects that we were handed over as change of government. We reviewed the ones that are in line and which were done properly, and we are continuing them. I'm not aware of any major project that has been cancelled so far because we have change of government. There are a lot of projects that are still up and running. The same people who had the projects prior are still maintaining the projects and are still running them. So some of these things, they signed agreements for probably 5 years, and if the 5 years is not up, you cannot change them. That would cause financial loss to the states, which we call judgment debt. So some of these things, I don't see any major change in, especially in my ministry or the agency in which we run. There's not been any major cancellation in any projects, unless we do find the projects that it was not done in the right way and the processes were not followed. Then we will make a decision about that. But other than that, I don't think there's a major problem in regards to that. All projects by the Kufuor government, we believe in continuation. We believe in building the country. So government, in our eyes, is continuing and what our predecessors have started. And if we can be able to push that forward, the ones that we don't, which were not done properly, or we don't follow the right processes, then that one we could make a decision on it as to if we would like to continue that project, or if we do not like to continue, how we can review and make it better. So those are some of the things that I am aware of that we are doing as government to push things forward. In regards to data that is secure data, I don't think we are putting every data out there. If we are saying that this data, the information that we have here is helping solve infant mortality rate. That is data that is out there to reduce infant mortality rates. We're not going to put data out of the president's security detail, right? That's not data that's meant to be shared out. So I don't think every data is out there. Majority of data that's out there is meant for the public and is good for the public because it helps in quick decision making. It helps in moving the country forward as in that regard. So I'll let anybody else jump on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Once when we say open data, it just doesn't mean anything and everything has to be opened up. Like in India, we have a policy which says only data which is not of individual's nature, no private individual data has to be published, and anything which talks about security of the country, then that data is not to be made public. Apart from that, data which is for people's good should be made public in an open forum. And another thing is what we have done in the platform is we have a workflow, and as I told you, since it is on the government portal, we hold the department responsible for the data that they are releasing. So the chief data officer actually puts a tick to the statement that this data is in compliance with the National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy before that data is published. This is not to hold the data, but this is to have them in the system and be accountable for the information that they are letting it out for the citizen to make more sense out of it.
For time management, I have less than 10 minutes, but I think the organizer may give us up to 15 minutes. So I would like to, I will come to him. Since open public forum, normally, we have people queuing up behind the mic, so we know the number of persons, so that we also know the time we are allocating. Now that we don't have people queuing behind the mic, what we would like you to do for us, if you intend to come to the mic, indicate by raising your hand so that we know how to utilize the remaining 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Okay, for now we are having 3, but after that, hopefully, we may have other interests based on the question, comments, or recommendation. Go ahead, my young man.
Good afternoon. My name is Shahid Sadiq. I'm a member of the Ghana Wikimedia User Group, and I would like to ask our Deputy Director, I had a very clear understanding of the Indian policy as far as the open data is concerned. I want to find out what legal code is binding our data, and if there's any copyright or whether copyright or copyleft. We want to be clear on that. By which means if there's any copyright binding the data, by which means are they human readable, machine readable, or there's a legal code binding that? And also, I would also like to add that we, Wikimedia Ghana User Group, there's a sister project of Wikipedia, which they call Wikidata, where we collect information from Wikipedia and we linked it to Wikidata. And when you look at the information or the data we have there, there's so much to be done. And Wikimedia Foundation has been doing very well to support the volunteers in gathering those informations. Do you have any provision in place to support the volunteers who are willing to contribute data to the Wikidata? Thank you.
Thank you very much. In regards to policy, before the data is open, it has to be legal. You can't share any data on any platform that is not legal. Before you can share that, it has to be legal. So, of course, any data that you would put out there, we will have to put out there, it has to be legal. In regards to strategies we are putting in place to support that, like I did mention, the government is very excited about this program. You saw the president here himself. Mr. Kumia, the gentleman sitting in front of me, will be able to answer a lot more of your questions as to what the long-term strategy is going to be for open data. But we are always open to have conversations in regards to what you guys are doing, how we can incorporate that into the government strategy, and if there's a common grounds, of course, we'll be more than happy to collaborate with you as well. Because I believe strongly in collaboration. I believe in government-private partnerships as to how we can work with non-governmental agencies as well to drive the force of government to move things forward.
Okay, thank you, DG. Mike, the policy analyst, what deficiency do you observe from the question?
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of data, the protection that you talked about, we have the Ghana Data Protection Commission, which also works with the Ministry of Communication. And so all data controllers, or those who take data, have all registered with them. And by that, you sign on to certain principles. So it helps in terms of data protection. And in open data, so we don't give out individual, data out. So a lot of when the data comes out, you can't tell who it is coming from. It is anonymous. So over there, you have some sort of protection there. And if I remember correctly, Open Data Initiative started in 2012, and there's been change in government, and we are still continuing with it. So continuity in Ghana is not an issue at all. So there's some protection in there, and there's also continuity in there. In terms of support for the wiki volunteers, probably you may have to go and negotiate with NITA and some other partners. I don't know. Thank you.
Mike B.
Thank you. My name is Amos from Ghana. I want to find out from the NDPC, currently, what are some of the policies that we've worked on in data, openness of data and data protection, and what are the lapses, and what are the plans you already have in mind in the upcoming policy document that you are preparing for 2018. Then for NITA, I want to find out, I just checked the data.gov.gh site, and we have only about 15 data there. What is the difficulty in Ghana of the government portal working? Why can't we make it work? Why is that the agencies and the MMDAs can't just populate their website? What is the difficulty? Is it that we don't have the resources? We don't have the human capacity for them to mount this simple site for government, that if you want an information on a district, you can't find it. How can we link such databases to this open data, the data.gov.gh, so that people can have access to it? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the question. Currently, the policy that comes closest to what you asked about can be found in what we call Ghana Shared Growth and Development Agenda 2, GSGDA 2. And in there, we talk about e-governance and e-government. And in there, we have some of these strategies to open up data. So that is what the organizations are taking advantage of, and they are using in their plans to make data open. Further, for the upcoming framework that will be implemented 2018 to 2021, we've also put in the provisions to make data more accessible, usable, all the attributions that you can add to. And the good thing about it is that the organizations, government departments, agencies, and even the districts that are putting together their plans also will use that framework or that vision or strategy to come up with their own initiatives in terms of data, the ones they will make open and all that. So there's hope for the future. Thank you.
So in regards to NITA, government platforms, not all of them is managed by NITA. Some of them are managed by individual agencies. What we are doing now is to bring them all on board, because we are realizing that some agencies are not even hosting their web platforms in the country. And if there's a breach, then everybody shouts at NITA. but then at the background, it is not our responsibility. In regards to managing these platforms and making them all sync and work together, it is our goal to make sure that we put NITA agents in some of these agencies to help them facilitate their platforms, because some of them, you go there, the web admin guy left 4 or 5 years ago, and we still have President Atta Mills on the platform, and we have not made any updates to it. It is one of our responsibilities. I have a list of websites that are hosted in Ghana, the list of websites that are not hosted in Ghana, the agency's websites that are even down and not working. So we are aware of this issue. We are addressing them. We brought together the chief directors for the agencies to be able to have a conversation with them on breakfast. The next step in which we are doing is that we are bringing all the IT professionals for every agency on board to say, these are the issues that we are seeing. Some of them you would be surprised to go and they'll tell you, oh, the platform is not working, and you go and they've just not turned on the server. It's as simple as that. Or they've just unplugged something. You know, so some of the issues that we are facing, we are addressing it from the roots where the people who are in charge of it on the everyday basis are aware of the fundamental issues so that they can also address it, because I find it very frustrating where I see some of these platforms and they look really archaic and old. They are not relevant, and henceforth, I don't see why they should even be there. So I have made it a point to bring in 2 developers who are going to be with me for the next year or 2 to be able to address some of these issues, fix them, and we'll be able to resolve them. Data should be available. I'm quite disappointed in some of the platforms that I see, but like I said, you'll be surprised that some of them are hosting their platform in Ireland, some of them are hosting somewhere else. They don't even know the passwords to some of them, so we have to kill them and bring them all back again. So these issues are quite aware. We are aware of them. We are addressing them. We are going back into the districts and be able to address some of the issues that they are facing. As part of our strategy to there's a lot of NITA is not working, and you would find that half of the time people are spending the bandwidth that we give to them watching videos during work hours, or watching prayer seminars and stuff like that during work hours. And the person who's supposed to be using the platform to be sending work emails and stuff like that is rather having slow time. We are addressing that. We have also gone to the next level where we have purchased more capacity for the country. So in the next 15 years, we are having about not less than 20 gigabytes of undersea cable, which is going to be delivered to the people. We came to meet about 1.6 gig, which I thought was very little, so we had to make the steps to solve the problem of it's not working by giving them more capacity so that everything is flowing, and henceforth we could go in there and plug which is not plugged, unplug which is not necessary, and bring everybody back on board. This is also an opportunity for me to say that we need all MDAs to work with NITA, because everybody thinks that they have to go and build their own thing somewhere. And then when the issue comes, they come calling on NITA. So I'll be more than happy if you start your process with NITA so that before the issue comes, we would know about it and we'll even notify you and address some of these problems. So I thank you for your question. I think it's an excellent question, and I want you to know that we are handling it by the day.
Thank you.
I would just like to add, because you have touched the heart. NIC is just like NITA. So we actually do not do everything, but we do quite a lot for the government in India. And whenever there is a problem, people just point their fingers to National Informatics Center. But believe me, he's very right in saying that it takes time, and what he's planning to do is the right thing. Like, have people on board, like this is what we did. We realized that if we have to jump and get the data up, not by just implementing the platform, being a technology, solution provider to the government, we have around 30 data analysts whom we have put in the departments on rotation. So we are hand-holding these departments because, as you said, pardon me for saying that, wearing the hat of a government, I couldn't even be making this statement. Quite a lot of the departments are defunct when it goes to releasing data. They think they're doing a good job, which is their job, their core job of, say, income tax, that is for collecting taxes and for giving you PAN cards and things like that. Transport department thinks they're doing a good job by laying the roads and having the buses move. But you would have to do what you are planning to do, get people on board of NITA, deploy them in the departments on rotation, handhold them, train them, and see that they are able to contribute data set and pump as much of capacity building so that there is just no excuse for releasing this data.
Please, I'm running out of time. The timer has just showed me that it's 1 minute, and I have already someone waiting for a question, so I would like a brief answer. If there is some other person that has a burning question, please come to the mic, or I close it already with the last person. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. My name is Adam Sauer. I'm from the U.S., electrical engineer with a lot of work in data visualization. Thank you. This question is more about in respect to the Sustainable Development Goals. Kind of as that's been established as a kind of a metric system for measuring data on the global scale. It seems like as that transfers over to national and kind of like state governments and then also city governments, everyone's using their own metric system. And maybe it's just because they have different ministries set up and the money's flowing through different areas. But I don't know, I'm trying to work it out. Like, is it just not logical for everyone to kind of adhere to that kind of metric system and work towards that as a starting point? Or is it, maybe there are more complications that each level needs to have its own metric system and you kind of transfer between them as far as what data you're measuring and what groups are collecting that data?
Thank you. Please, young man, come to the mic. They will use this time to round up so they answer the question.
Okay, my name is Rex Fodnyako, part of the Linux Accra community. The question I have pertaining the data.gov.gh platform for the open data, I would like to ask what provisions are being made for the private sector and individuals that would like to contribute data, and how is that data that will be contributed also received, and as in how is it going to be judged or gone through in order to be approved for the platform? And also of bringing on board all IT professionals to make the platform better. I want to ask, if you say all IT professionals in Ghana, are you talking about the Information Technology Association of Ghana? Because I know there is a body like that that exists for IT professionals in Ghana. And finally, how would data be reviewed when they are submitted?
Thank you. Up there.
Yeah. Please, my name is Nanenwete Opata. I want to know about open data specifics. I'm concerned about persons with disability, the categories of disabilities system we have in our country. And now, if, let's say, there is a development project that we want to undertake for them, and we are undertaking data on these persons, because we don't know the categories of their situation that they are in, we just take any data anyhow, like a brushing data or anything, because data is open. So for that matter, we take the data on them, and the implementation and other things become a problem, because it's like we don't cover up to benefit the beneficiaries as it is. So I wanted to know, if we have that open data and we collected it, how best can we be so sure and specific to the areas that we covered, we take this data, so that those people can benefit from whatever it is, especially at the side of persons with disabilities.
Thank you very much. So these questions, the last 3 questions will be answered by the panelists through a summary for this session. Thank you, starting from the Deputy Director General.
Yeah, so the gentleman from the U.S., whereabout are you from? Ohio, okay. Bobcats, right? Okay, great. So in regards to how the data is being collected, like I just said, it has to be interoperable, right? We have to be able to work together to be able to build a solid foundation. And today I was having a conversation this morning before I came here, and most of the health services are looking to build platforms to help pregnant women get to doctors quickly. And they have each and every one of these in different regions. And I asked them, the one in Accra, does it talk to the one in Kumasi? And the one in Kumasi, does it talk to the one in the Volta region? The one in the Volta region, does it talk to the one in the north? And he looked at me and was like, no. And I was like, well, if it doesn't, and there's an issue, how do you resolve it? So he wasn't even aware that these platforms are supposed to talk to each other, and henceforth it will make their work and their lives easier, right? Because we want to reduce infant mortality rates. So I proposed to them, and we are solving, I just keep telling them, bring the problems and let's solve them, because that is the best way in which we can move things quickly. And we are working through the ministry to be able to get other ministers to understand why we are supposed to work together, and henceforth will reduce our cost, it will bring more efficiency, and it will deliver faster to the people. Because everybody, like I said, is building their own little thing in the little corner, and it doesn't talk to each other, right? Somebody uses Microsoft, somebody's using Linux, somebody's using Ubuntu, somebody's using another platform somewhere, and henceforth it doesn't make it easier for us to regulate these things. So as the body that carries this, we are saying that everything that you want to do that has to do with technology, please talk to us so that we can build it part of the national plan. We can advise you how to go about it, the best strategies and the best ways in which you can do it, so that it reduces our cost. Because people are building their own data center whilst we have a national data center. It is costing them equally or as much more if they just use the national data center, which we can secure it for them. I've been to buildings where there are 3 data centers in one building, and I asked them, if this building comes down now, what is your backup plan? They have none. So it is possible, and we are bringing the awareness. It's much more of an awareness thing to say that please do not do this. Let's work through NITA, which is the regulatory and the ICT body for the country, for us to be able to move things forward. In regards to the gentleman's question, asking, are we bringing all ICT personnel, or there's a body that has to do with ICT? We are bringing all government ICT personnel together first, because they are our front lines. If the Ministry of Communication goes down, or if the Ministry of Defense goes down, the first point of person I want to talk to is the IT person there. What happened? How did this happen? So he also has to understand the platform which he's working on. We also have to understand what he has at his end, so that if anything happens, we can communicate quickly and solve problems in that regard, right? So, like I said, there are so many parts that are moving, and there are so many parts that we are looking to bring together. Because if you talk to my minister, Honorable Oslawusu Akufo, we are aggressively pushing interoperability, where we want machines, we want systems, we want government agencies to be able to quickly assess, talk, and make quick decisions in real time together. So that we can reduce time. I'm working with the police, I'm working with the army, I'm working with health services and all of these things to be able to bring them all on one platform for government for us to move things forward. Am I missing a third question? Disability.
Deputy Director, please, maybe the disability, the final words will be answered.
Okay, so I'll pass
along. Yeah, thank you, please.
So just a very quick thing, other than to say that I am very grateful and excited about the announcements this morning and the future of the Ghana Open Data Initiative. And I think that will give a lot of momentum to making some of these changes. So just to quickly touch on the SDGs, because that's what I'm doing right now for the City of Los Angeles and previously did for the World Bank at the international level. The issues for a city are very different because not every city provides the same kind of services that could address the SDGs. So in the case of health, for example, cities in California don't provide health services, counties do. And so they can't, on a one-to-one basis, make the same sort of assertions about how they're going to ensure healthy areas. And I think at a national level, different countries have different sort of maturity and capacity around each of those 17 SDGs. So it really has always been meant for countries to make their own interpretation of that and to be able to say how they are going to be able to measure their progress in it from today to now 13 years from now.
Please, 1 second, final word.
Thank you very much. About the data being relevant to segments of society, especially persons with disability, you see, the question you asked, the answer is still in open data. And I'll give you the reason. The reason is that with open data, we will know the numbers of people who have a particular kind of disability. So when we are also coming up with applications or products, the same open data will help us to tailor-make them to address the needs of those people. So we can put in what we call accessibility features in these apps so that it will help solve not just us, but any other solution that we come up with. And the SDGs, quick one, in Ghana, we are not implementing SDGs on its own and implementing our national plan on its own. We've merged the issues of SDG into our national plan. So we use what we call AAA, alignment, accessibility, alignment, adaptation, and adoption. Now, for the indicators that we adopted, we will have to tweak the matrix to suit them. But the rest, we can just use what is globally acceptable. Thank you.
1 second, final word.
My final word, we are in the process of creating an Africa Agriculture Capacity Development Initiative, and we are inviting all the countries that are represented here to actually be champions of that effort. We will be linking up with you, but you are welcome to drop us a line. Thank you very much.
I've taken so much time. I'm really sorry. Half a second, please, madam.
Let's make it a quarter of a second.
Oh, thank you, Papa.
Yeah, after the morning session, I feel that Ghana has got a lot to do, and open data here would need a lot of push, and that can only happen with technology, community participation, and collaboration. Open data definitely has a big future here, and I feel NITA would be driving it through and through with commitment from the President and the Minister of Communications. Wish every one of us a big success together because we have lots to walk and lots to cover.
Thank you. The session comes to an end. Clap for our great panelists. Thank you all.
We need everybody to make their way to the main hall. We're just about to do a recap. Please make your way to the main hall. Those who are outside, if you could please make your way to the main hall. We're just finalizing the session or the entire conference for today. So please make your way to the main hall. We just had some data come in from a different voting source. So if we could put that data up. Masa, where's my data? While the data is coming up, we're about to have a little competition as well. We need, let me see, what hashtag can we create? Hashtag lessons learned? Oh, that's too long. Yeah, hashtag lessons. Okay, so that's the data right there. This is from an independent contractor, separate source. And as you can see, this was looking for some different information. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Ghanaian jollof? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Nigerian jollof? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Senegalese jollof? Just look at the data. The dynamics are a little different. Can you zoom in a little bit? It looks like people are squinting. Also, I'm negotiating with some travel and tour back there to see if we can find a restaurant that has all the, the different varieties, so that those who want to make sure they taste everything before they leave, at least we'll give you the place to go to. It's very important. I think there are some participants here who are not happy that they've still not had the privilege to taste jollof. Well, some have tasted during the lunch, but they still feel like they need to taste the other varieties. So we're working on that. We're working on that. I don't know if there are more people coming in, but I think I'm going to go ahead and invite Mr. Akumia, chairman of the LOC, for the AODC program, to come up and give us a recap of the public forum. And then I'll come up and give an overall recap. But while he's coming up, please, the competition. We're all going to tweet one lesson we've learned today. Okay? One lesson we've learned today. Hashtag AODC17, hashtag lessons learned. And the person with the most tweets, or at least the most follows, is going to get something special. I'm going to find out from Jean what she's going to give you. She doesn't know she's giving you something yet, but we're going to negotiate that later. So, we'll give them data. Okay, all right. And something else. And something else. Data and something else. So, hashtag lessons learned. Hashtag AODC17. One lesson you've learned in the past 4 days. And we need to start tweeting that now. Okay? So every single one of you, there has to be a unique lesson that you've learned for the last 4 days, and we want to see them on Twitter. Okay. Mr. Akumia, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Papa. Well, we've just had a wonderful session at the public forum. It's been a lot of information from different perspectives, and I'd like to just put up a few of the things that came, especially what we consider as takeaways for our open data, how we can improve whatever we are doing. Well, I think one of the things that came out was that the policy should drive the open data process. And I must say that in Ghana, we just were driven by putting technology in place and then populating whatever things. And so we need to go back to the drawing board. And I think we have plans in the new program that is upcoming to ensure that we have a good, comprehensive open data policy and guidelines. And of course, that should be what will be driving things as we go forward. Now, the other thing that came up, which is interesting, is that standards play a very important role in terms of the open data roll-up. And there has been questions of how to incorporate non-government data. I think there's been a lot of talk within the open data community as to how to integrate, non-government data into national open data initiatives. And again, I think we got some experience from other countries. I think in the US, I think that was somehow incorporated with acknowledgements. I know that in India, I'm told that they want to work out a policy so that it's easy to, incorporate, because there could be issues and other things. And it's important. From the Ghanaian panelists, especially from the NDPC, you said there were works that were going on in terms of developing standards. And I think that this should be opened up for all the community, especially people driving data, so that national standards could be adopted, and then we can move on with that. Now, there was also interventions on the fact that we didn't have frameworks in Africa in terms of, frameworks for ensuring that we can put in place systems to drive our open data. And we have contributions from our colleague from Kenya, who is has a new project to develop capacity. And one of the things that has to be done, and my understanding is that we need to be able to put in place frameworks that would drive the systems that has to be put in place. And then we can really leapfrog in our open data initiative. So in Africa, because we don't have these frameworks, it's hindering the kind of things that we need to do. And there was also the question of who pays for opening up data. And it came up that, every day we release data. And the only thing is that this data that we release might not be in a format that is reusable or is machine readable. And so the contention is that we need to be able to have a kind of a behavioral change so that we can put the same data which exists in a format that is reusable, and therefore we could then incorporate it into the mainstream open data. Now, one of the things that is being done in Ghana is we're rolling out a number of e-services, e-immigration, e-procurement, e-health. And one of the decisions that was taken is to ensure that all these systems can generate data that by default is open. So those things were incorporated in the design so that, for instance, once the e-immigration starts operating, it's easy to get, open. The data that comes out of these systems are open, and that's one way to, put systems in place. So once we're putting the system in place, we know that the output is data that is open by default and can be used in doing different things. There were questions that came up about the Ghana Open Data Initiative and why things were not going the way it had to go. I just want to, in summary, just share a few things that we're doing at Ghana Open Data. Currently, there is a program which is Open Data for Development at the Ministry of Communication under the e-Transform program. Now, one of the things that we are doing there is to ensure that we have a world-class portal that, at least a 3-4-star portal, so we can have all data being interchanged from one format to the other. And that is part of the project. So way back in 2014, 2015, we stopped uploading data. We had the OGPL platform. It crashed, and because we lost touch with our Indian partners, we decided to move on to CCAN. And as we started populating these portals, we had to start the e-Transform program. So we just froze, and we have not been able, but we have several thousands of data sets that needs to be uploaded. But we first want to make sure that the portal is ready, and then we can move. The second thing we're doing there is to also put in place the policy framework. And of course, data a data, or let's say technical framework that defines all the different technical parameters like standards, metadata, and everything within that sector. The third thing that we're going to do is engagement to improve the ecosystem. And that's where we're focusing on 4 sectors, where we would try to bring all these players within the sector to talk about problems and how open data can solve them, so we can have practical impact solutions that come out of those things. So yeah, that's what we're doing at the Ghana Open Data Initiative. So this is a summary of what happened in the public forum. There were other issues around, the National IT Agency and what we're doing and the challenges, etc., etc. But on open data, this is a summary of what we did. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akumia. Very solid and summarized view of what happened at the Open Forum. Now, let me just get into some details on what we have recapped. And I want to go back to yesterday because I know there are some people that missed from yesterday. In the meantime, hello? Okay. While you're tweeting about what you learned, the lessons you've learned since the entire program started, you may also want to talk about your entire experience in Ghana since you came. Remember to hashtag AODC17. So I noticed somebody has written, how do you say open data in your language? And they are trying to give something in Chi and Sembebe. So let's hear some thoughts around localizing the word open data. So from yesterday, we talked about why open source. One of the groups talked about why open source. Open source software is a software which, with license in which the copyright holder provides the right to study, change, and distribute the software to anyone and for any purpose. For those who don't know what open source is, or for those who are not too familiar with it, it's important that you understand that open source is more about the source code being available, not necessarily that it's free, even though a lot of times it is free and we like it to be free. But there are a few open source tools out there that are actually commercial. So open source helps build developer loyalty as developers feel empowered and have a sense of ownership of the end product. That's true. And open source has helped producing reliable, high-quality software quickly and inexpensively. It is flexible because modular system allows programmers to build custom interfaces. So because you have a community when it comes to developing open source, you have a sense of sharing data as well. And so within the open source community, it's easy to build an open data community. And so that's why it makes sense to interrelate the two. We talked about climate change and environment. Climate change can be improved through availability of data, making it accessible and also its usefulness. It can be used in enhancing national climate services, making it clear that data must be provided at the national level. And Ghana meteorological and hydrological services should be using this. Now, climate data is useful for the following: NADMO, the shipping industry, the transporter sector, etc. We also talked about data walking. Data walking has to do with the day-to-day living of people in different communities with different attitudes or behaviors. Data walking is geared mostly towards ethnography. Data walking is also used for research purposes and also by journalists or ethnographers for writing stories. We also talked about smart agriculture, current knowledge and challenges. So the aim was, it had 3 aims. First of all, the technical aim was development of affordable and robust weather stations and improvement of weather forecast. The second aim was in the area of education, installment of stations in SHS and tertiary institutions for teaching and learning. And then finally, in business, development of sustainable business cases with local organizations. We had a spotlight on pen data, and that was using FOSS, which is free open source systems to contribute to open data, and creating continental collaboration on OpenStreetMap, and also looking out for software capabilities. We also, of course, spoke about the Internet of Things, big data in promoting agriculture in Ghana. So with the Internet of Things, the concept is around the miniaturized technological objects that are receptacle to external stimuli for onward transmission to repositories. We're looking at big data, extremely large data repositories that can only be consequential through proficient, computational analysis to reveal patterns and trends. And examples of FAO predicting the global population would reach 8 billion by 2025, what those implications are, and 9.6 billion by 2050. Then there was a section on building businesses across borders. And some of the lessons that came from it were the importance of assessing partners you deal with, and budget setting being an important factor in building businesses across borders. So global businesses, basically. There was a section on getting world data owners to share humanitarian data. And the aims of the HDX was about simplifying data sharing and extending the impact of your data. So ease data availability, and once data has been combined with other sources, being able to tell a story from your database. I think there was a lot of emphasis on being able to tell a story in any particular situation. Then we also talked about taking open data innovation forward in the field of business. Defining the needs, which is very important, what customers' needs are, and understanding them before you even start developing. Then after you've defined the needs, developing and testing both your ideas and your systems, and deciding what kind of features you need to use to evaluate the idea or business. And then thirdly, managing things like what? Like intellectual property, and looking out for what other incentives one could use. Then we also talked about building impact and data for good. And so that was a session being run by Facebook. People trust Facebook to keep their data. Data for good is situated under the privacy team of Facebook. So how Facebook is working on data for good. This was a session for those of you who visited the Facebook session. Then we talked about open data benefits, opportunities, and challenges in Africa. There are lots of data, but little action is executed. These are as follows. Data is not easily available. Data is not easily accessible. Data is not reliable. So how do we ensure that the data is reliable, accessible, and available? And these were some of the concerns that were raised and being looked at. We talked about making data available, that is by publishing via the International Aid Transparency Initiative, IATI standard. And they looked at some great user stories like that from Burundi and Madagascar. In their cases, resources beyond aid and wealth of data. They looked at cases from Nigeria, using data to reduce transactions cost of manual input. And then the case of Liberia, in coordination of the national policy at the time of the Ebola emergency. Then there was another area on open data for education advancement in Africa and its diaspora. So open data should be accessible to all, making open data graphical in order not to limit language differences. I think there were a lot of discussions around language barriers, and the graphics help at least make sense across board. Interestingly, Burkina Faso has a system called Nendo, which is a map that gives statistics on school-going children in the following areas: how far they travel from school, or how far they travel to school, the facilities used in the school, attendance of students over the year, absenteeism of students over the year. And these are real problems across Africa. So these are solutions that we could borrow from each other and make sure they work. We also talked about the role of open data in the Africa data revolution. It was suggested that the report should be branded with government, inscriptions, and statistical authority in order to make them feel part of it. The report looked academic, these are some of the assessments that came from it, and the report from the French countries were low. Then we also looked at, under the Public Speaking for Good workshop, the golden rule of communication, which is ensuring that in any time that you're communicating through whatever channel, analyzing your audience. If you could do that beforehand, you do that. If you can't, during the session, you use questions to figure out what your audience is looking for. And getting a sense of what information you're putting out there. Now today we started with a panel discussion on, unfortunately I don't have the summary for that, but key areas raised in His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's speech, where first and foremost he assured participants that his leadership would help to create a system of data supply and usage to further development. Secondly, he stated that he will ensure that the establishment of an open data institute for education. And then finally, he assured the participants that he will ensure that the Right to Information Bill in Parliament will be passed, which is a major move. In meeting room 2, there was a topic about empowering communities to improve their lives using data, practical experiences from across Africa. Key points that were discussed were that open data can be effective to help decision makers in policy building by having the information that shows the needs of the people. Secondly, we can empower our communities to improve their lives by using data. And then thirdly, organizations must open the data they acquire to make it accessible to all in order to avoid difficulty in acquiring information and duplication of efforts. There was a session on open data usage in Francophone countries, and 3 key themes came out of this from this session. 1, making open data available for all. 2, involving active participation from both government and citizens in local development. And 3, stratified open data for implementation. There was a section on the country data roadmaps, and it was concluded that it's expensive to dig out data, so there's a need for baseline data collection applications to obtain data because data is not cheap. Secondly, data quality is an issue in the past and present because data notations collected are not already accurate. And then finally, one can be very extractive at data collection because they can be manipulated during collections. So therefore, there's no need for proper feedback. Finally, there was something on open data for agriculture and nutrition today as well. The usage of open data in agriculture and nutrition to develop the capacity of government, farmers, and actors through organized frameworks for wealth and employment creation through shareable knowledge in value chain optimization and innovation of technologies. It's interesting, this subject was in a number of conferences the same week. So it's interesting to find that same thing here. So it means we're serious in Africa about empowering the farmer, about making sure the farmer is included, about making sure that we're innovative around agriculture, and that we find ways of making agriculture attractive so a lot more people go into it. Finally, there was information around government being engaged in open data in agriculture to realize, monitor, and report on the Sustainable Development Goals too. As a problem, Africa does not have a good platform where civil society, government, academia can interface also. Farmers are also not engaged in decision-making for agricultural projects, and so we need to be working on ensuring that they are included in the decision-making around the agricultural projects. Unfortunately, I was waiting for my data for the last 3 sessions. They're not here yet, so let me not keep holding you. But I think I want a recap from 3 people just to add this in case there's something I didn't mention, and then we'll close off. Can I get a mic? Ushers. Can I get a mic? You all here? Okay, can you come get one? I need 3 people to give us a summary of a unique lesson learned that I have not mentioned in any of my summaries. Is there anybody that would like to take a first go at it? I don't see any hands up. Yes, Gene. The mic is off. No, the mic is off.
Better?
Yeah.
So one of the lessons I learned is just how vibrant the open data ecosystem is here and how many people care about more government data being opened.
How many people actually care about more
Government data being opened up.
More
they want to
government
use more
data.
data if more data would be available.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else has anything unique to share? It's all been covered? We're hungry? Yes, I see a hand up there.
I think for the agriculture track, one of the things that was said was that there is a lot of data in research institutions, corporate governance, and the government, but there's no link between all of them. How do we take these data and put them in a place where the farmer can benefit from it? So how do we make the farmer able to understand the data and make meaningful out of it and be able to produce better food for us?
Okay, thank you. I see a hand here, I see a hand here, I see a hand here. Okay, I see a hand here. Here, right here.
There was a consensus on the need to have an institutional framework to drive open data within the agricultural space. Thank you.
Okay.
A critical observation is, are the people ready to engage? Because the level of awareness determines citizens' engagement on open data issues.
So, do we have the proper awareness? And if we do, are the people ready to engage? Okay. There was a hand back there in the yellow shirt. Gene, how am I doing on time? Good.
Open source and open data produce an ultimate open era where finding efficient solutions to sustainable development problems are very simple.
Can you say that again, please?
Open source and open data comes together to produce an ultimate open era where finding efficient solutions to sustainable development problems are simple.
Okay. Do I see another hand? Okay, I see one hand here and one hand here.
More than anything, I was just kind of impressed, really impressed by the amount of openness that is, already in this discussion, and the amount of collaboration that's going on. It's really cool to see a lot of systems opening up and saying, hey, we want to figure out how to do this, and really embracing it and approaching it, and just having this discussion in general it's a lot further along than I had even imagined. So it's cool to be a part of.
He had his hand up right here in the black jacket.
my lesson was more of a solution to a bigger challenge I've been, engaged with over the years as a researcher, and today I got a little answer, let me say, some response to it. The fact that as a researcher you go to the field and then you require a particular data, and then your respondents are that other people have come for such data, and then you try to find out, you realize there are several people with such data, but the problem of where to get the data. Is it the government, the private people? So with open data, then the question is, how do we synchronize such data, between government and the private on certain data? Where do we put this data? Is it on a general portal? And what type of data do we put there? Is it possible we put all data there? Or then we know that, okay, this type of data can't be known to everyone. And that particular years, we have common data in terms of updated data on certain variables. These were challenges, and they were well addressed by the respondents for today for me. Thank you.
So how do we synchronize the data across board so we don't duplicate efforts? I see a hand up there, but while you're walking to him, yes. Some of the summaries from the last two sessions just came up. So from the Data Revolution report, we had 3 key points. The report to be made in the future should have more impact stories on how the open data can be used. This word stories keeps coming up. We need to tell the stories better. We need to have impact stories. We need to inspire people with the stories that are coming up, the user cases. The next report should be made more user-friendly. So I guess in looking at the reports, just like we do in developing the tools, we need to consult the users to have an idea of what they are comfortable with, what they are used to seeing, some sort of UI testability, so that we make sure that the reports are user-friendly. And then thirdly, open data in Africa by Africa and for Africa. Interesting. Final comment I have here is advancing Africa's commitment to open contracting. Key point from John Balambala from Cameroon. Data is critical to achieve goal. They need to share data. Those who execute contracts, we need to know how they get the contracts and how they execute the contracts they get. And then finally, citizens always want to know flow of information between the government and the private individuals. Yes, you had something to say?
Yeah. So in one of the sections, I also learned that citizens' participation is also key in ensuring government open up data.
Citizen participation is key in sharing, in ensuring. Oh, okay. So if we have citizens participating, it would help ensure that the data is open to them. So the citizens have a role or have a duty to ensure that data is open to them. I think we'll wrap up here. There's a banquet, there's a dinner at the banquet hall across the street, and the ushers would they need to use the buses? So those who can't walk should take buses, and those who want to exercise can walk? Okay, thank you. Awesome. So it's across the street, but there will be buses. So if you want to go with your bus, with a bus, you can join the bus. But if you want to take a walk and stretch your legs a bit, it's just across the street. You walk through the gate, and across is the State House. There are some lovely ladies around, the ushers, who will guide you to the place, whether you're walking or getting on the bus. So it's your choice. Viva Africa. Oh, yes. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, we're going to meet up here. Viva Africa. God bless you all, and see you tomorrow, bright and early at 9 a.m. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.